afternoon. All right, we're on part 4 of the surveillance. This is actually my favorite episode, or this part, the part 4, because it's about the human psyche and the soul and what surveillance does. So this is the human cost of surveillance and how being watched reshapes the psyche and the soul. And it's very interesting, the information that I received. And I think that, like, if anything, this is what happens to the soul and the actual human psyche when it's being watched 24/7. So let's dive in, okay? All right, so surveillance doesn't just capture our data, it reshapes our mind, our behavior, and our overall society. This is why we have the mass psychosis happening, and people are like, what's going on with people? Well, there's an element that, I mean, we all have a feeling that there's something off, and it's not quite normal. That's the best way I can put it. And we know, because we're spiritual beings living in a body, experiencing this earth. So, but our spiritual self, our soul, our consciousness is the highest, and it knows when it knows, and you cannot cross that. You have to unite with that. So from the chilling effect that makes people censor themselves, this is what begins to happen, right? So just really quick, I want to, in this final part, I want to say that in this series is I explored the psychological and social and spiritual costs of the constant surveillance. And I read a lot about the prison. And I mean, how can we even expect anybody to come out of prison and be okay? I mean, that's another whole situation that we haven't really thought down that road yet. But you wonder why they're, nuts when they come out. So that's something to think about. Something, we're just not going about it right. There's something that we're not thinking it through. And so this really makes people in a lot of ways start to censor themselves. Example being, once it's said that who was it, Pam Bondi, that we're going to start censoring speech, everybody starts to censor themselves. Just the words alone, saying that to all of us, we're going to have to censor. People start automatically censoring themselves. And that creates a problem within the human psyche. And then to break down the trust, the 3 parts that I spoke about before, we've lost trust. And by Pam Bundy coming out and saying that, it was just another knockdown of not trusting again. Do you see how this is just, I mean, if you're not awake by now, I'm going to pray for you, because the writing is on the wall where we're going. So, I mean, we really have to look at this and take it seriously. And because this is really, it's an effect where people control themselves, and they start, because I know I've done it. Like before, when I had my Twitter account, I noticed that I started censoring myself. Remember, we can't say the word, COVID. people were getting kicked off about even talking about that. And so we can see ourselves automatically falling into this trap that we just succumb to it. And surveillance isn't neutral. It isn't. It changes what it means to be a human. And that is the goal. Piece by piece, take our heart, take our kindness, take our trust. Do you see where this is going? So, if we lose privacy, we lose the inner space for freedom, creativity, and spiritual growth. And this is the true cost of the surveillance age. And this is why I did this 3-part, because I see a trend. I do the pattern recognition, and I automatically do it. It's in my soul and my brain. And that's one of the reasons why I let go of my Twitter and closed it down, was because I started to see a lot of patterns, and I was like, uh-oh. But not just of people, but in myself, just being on the platform. And like one of my friends, she doesn't believe, like I would talk to her about some of the things that were going on Twitter. She goes, I don't even understand any of that, because she wasn't in the realm. But if you stay in a realm like Twitter, now it's all right to, you go on for a little bit and just, look at things and then hop off, but to stay on all day long, I mean, you wonder why some of these influencers are a little bit, they're kind of like robots. They just say the same thing every day, day in and day out. And that's how I see it. So there is a cost, and we're going to see it, and we are seeing it. So quickly, I'm just going to run through the past, part 1, 2, and 3. Just what we spoke about. And we heard Snowden's warning. That was part 1 about the mass surveillance. And we all owe him a big round of applause. We do. And in part 2, we explored WikiLeaks and the Vault 7 and the global surveillance machine. Part 3, we looked into the future of AI, data brokers, and smart cities. So if you haven't watched 1, 2, and 3, do so, because it's important. And you kind of want to be a little bit, because sometimes you need to see things. Maybe you're like the William Cooper. He felt like he was never free, but he didn't quite understand why. So he started to investigate the word free. What does it mean? What does freedom mean? And that was towards the end of his life, that's what he was focusing on. So now we come to the final, and I believe this is the most important question. What does surveillance do to the human being? And that you'll answer, and I'm going to give my tidbits on this. Because surveillance isn't only a political or technological issue, okay? It's a human issue. And it reaches into our minds, our relationships, and even our souls. And we have to remind ourselves of that. We're not robots. We're human beings with emotions, feelings, and love, kindness, and we have all that. And in order to be a good human, you have to be stable. So the real chilling effect is the self-censorship. And we're all doing it. We all do it. We all go, that thing back in 2020 with the mask, we never even say it anymore. I do it all the time. I do it when I'm talking to people and they go, what are you talking about? I said, oh, it's COVID. And then I say, oh, I'm so used to not talking about it because you're not allowed to. And when people know they're being watched, they behave differently. And journalists avoid risky stories. They do. Unless the ones that are getting paid, for promoting some agenda of fear. That's what they promote. Fear, the end. And then citizens avoid, controversial speech. Just what I'm talking about. And friends avoid speaking openly about politics or faith. We're all seeing it, all of us. Come on, you know it. And this is called the chilling effect. The invisible cage that makes us censor ourselves before anyone else does. It's like a bird in a cage. So freedom of thought cannot thrive when every thought feels monitored. We can't thrive as a human being, a loving human being. It cuts us off. And this is part of the agenda. So the panopticon effect, let's talk about that. The internalized control. And there's a philosopher, Jeremy Bentham's, the panopticon, and he did it again, which I think is interesting, through the prison design. And this is where I got all this idea, was when I was reading the William Cooper. I was fascinated how much he studied the prison system. If you guys haven't studied that, it's a god awful. It's horrible. But they use prisoners for testing. Oh, it's horrible. It's so unhumane. Oh my God, it's awful. But Jeremy, what he did, this philosopher, he took the prison design and showed that people act as if they're watched, even when they aren't. And I caught myself doing that, where I don't say the word COVID. I say where we had to wear the mask. I did it in the other video. And then I noticed, I said, oh my God, I'm just automatically doing it. And the surveillance creates the same effect. So people modify behavior conforming to what they believe is acceptable. And creativity and dissent shrink. It comes down. It's kind of like the children when they're in first grade now, I remember when we used to take naps and we were able to have a time to imagine and draw, do finger painting and all that, and just create what we wanted. But now I see some of my friends, kids, they don't do any of that. They don't have that anymore. So all that creativity shrinks. And then obedience grows. Not out of agreement, but out of fear. And surveillance doesn't need guards on every corner when people are police themselves. They police themselves. So, we're doing it for ourselves. And the system is complete then. This is how they look at it. And they threaten us, we'll be banned from social media, we'll cut off. Imagine if we let digital go through. I mean, I can't imagine. I mean, we'll just completely be cut off. We'll cut ourselves off. And the loss of intimacy and trust. And privacy is the foundation of intimacy. It is. I mean, if you knew how much, like if you have any smart systems in your house and how much they're listening, if you're on some list because you Assange or WikiLeaks or you support these people that they wanted to kill Assange, just to let you know. And Snowden too. And I mean, it's crazy. So if you're rooting on these people, you're on a list, and they just put on your smart devices and they can hear everything. So the point is that our ability to share ourselves freely with those that we love becomes, what we do is we shrink back. Because if this is happening, then you don't want to show that. Like people say, if you have your phone on in your bedroom, that you shouldn't have your phone. You should put your phone in a Faraday case and go, put it in the other room or whatever. Because, you don't want that. And then personal life, you have families, partners, and friends. They filter what they share, fearing digital trials or trails. Because, they start to do a, almost like a report on you. And that I've seen that on people. I don't want to say anything, but one of the reasons I got off of Twitter was because I saw a couple of the influencers, which I think is really quite interesting now that I know that they were getting paid, were saying little things about me. Like I was always talking about being benevolent and, because I was trying to show, I wasn't doing videos, but I would write the post. And then somebody was like coming out and saying, well, we all can't be benevolent and that we're not all purists. And that's not, people can't be purist. And I was like, good God, what's wrong with being a purist? Or at least trying to be a purist? I mean, come on. Who would get mad about that? Talking about benevolent. And then, the little things I was seeing, I was like, you know what? I just don't want to be around that. And I just deleted my account. And I was like thinking, and then we find out they're all in the club. And I knew something wasn't right. My inside of me, I knew it. I knew, oh God, it was like screaming at me. And I ended up unfollowing all of them because they're all a bunch of twits. And they're liars. And I was listening to them thinking they're delivering, I never really, if I look back, did I like what they were saying? Not that much, but I thought, well, maybe they know something because they get to go to the White House. And then you end up, they're little twits lying about everything and being programmed to say what they have to say in order to get their check. And this is something that, it's good we found out because they're a bunch of fakes and they're liars. And they're all in the intel, BSing us. And it's BS, and they have the guts to look back at us and say, she isn't right. When you're not right, you're wrong. And you got caught. And it was time for you to get caught. Because you're a twit. and you're a liar, and it's wrong. And you talk about Jesus, but you're not, you're a fraud, an absolute fraud. And you're an intel on top of it, being told what to deliver on a day-to-day basis, just like Richard Doty did for 35 years with the Air Force in the deception department. Well, we're not going to buy into that anymore. And we're not going to listen to you because you're not even sticking up for Charlie anymore. You don't say anything. None of you do. Only a few people. And those are, to me, that's integrity, which you guys will never have ever again. And if people are smart that are following you, they should unfollow you and never listen to you again. And those are my feelings. And I'm right about it. And a lot of people are talking about it. Trust me. I've seen more videos in the last 5 days calling all of you out by name. I'm not going to call you out by name, but I will soon. And it's disgusting that you're allowing for Charlie's name to be dragged around in the mud and not speaking out because you don't want your checks to stop. The pie and the piece of the pie. So communities, what happens is trust weakens when people wonder who might be reporting and recording or monitoring. Now, I started to do this, though, because I had to. I put a camera and audio on me for the last 3 years because I had my house broken into twice. A man that was with the boys club, that's what it's called because that's what my neighbor said. She said something to me, in order to go to my backyard, you have to walk down a long driveway. And then, like, I have a fence, and the guy jumped over the fence. I was in Connecticut. Anyways, we got his footprints and everything and found out exactly who he was. And I got it all on camera. And then other weird things. And so I was like, you know what? And I would go to this Italian place for aperitivos, and that was a whole nother game. So I have all them, everything that they've said and everything, because I was like thinking, good God, these people are nuts. So I did it, but I'm doing it because I'm doing something that I found out, and it's very interesting, to say the least. So, but if with the surveillance through government and intel, what they're doing is they have cameras everywhere. You're not getting out of it at all. When you walk outside, know that it's everywhere. You know, it's up on the telephone poles out by your house. I watched them put them in. I mean, like, not just on my street, but everywhere. I've seen it. And I always stop, we're putting in cameras and blah, blah, blah. So they're documenting everything, which, sometimes I think, well, if they're doing this, they have to catch the people that are doing either harm or crooking or corruption or whatever, right? That's what you would think. That's how my mind works. Well, at least they'll get the bad guys. That's how I am. I think like that. Like, I don't know, maybe because, my dad was in the police business, and, that's what he used to talk about, how, they need to catch the people. But he even would say, but something's off because they never catch the crooks. So then we go to society, and the citizens stop trusting the institutions that surveil them. And this is what's happening. And they stop trusting one another. That happens too. Because remember, everything is energy. Energy never dies. It only transforms. If a person dies in your house and you buy that house and you think, oh, you know what? I don't have to worry about anything because she's dead, they carried out the body. No, it only transforms. If someone died, I always smudge everything because I know physics, I know quantum, I know all of this. I've studied it to a T. Energy never dies. And these are the things that they don't really talk about, but it's the truth. And you have to know that. So you have to know, like people, you know how they do the ghosts in the house and stuff, and they do those series. Well, there's probably energy there still, and you have to smudge the hell out of the house and do certain things, air and everything. So it's part. I mean, that is energy. It lives on and moves on and goes and does whatever. I mean, I don't know because I've never died before. So, but a surveillance society is not just watched, but it is divided. And this is the truth. This is the truth. So the spiritual cost is privacy isn't just political, it's spiritual. And this is the key. Without privacy, there's no space for prayer. With meditation and contemplation. I used to go to the farm and go pray, and then, I don't know, everybody started walking around, and I can't go to that spot anymore because it's kind of like too many people are there now. But it used to, no one was there ever. And and it was a beautiful, like you look out to a field and you see all these beautiful trees, and then you've got the bay, I think is what they call it. Yeah, the bay off to the right, and it's pretty. And but that kind of all goes out because you don't have the privacy. And then without privacy, there's no place to wrestle with doubts or discover new truths. And a lot of the things I like to do, my favorite thing to do is nature. Is to go, like today, I went out to the field where all the horses are. There was not one soul out there. And Leo and we just kind of like stood there and talked to, the horses that I know there. And we're just like, and they're like looking and then eating the grass and looking up, and they're happy. And it's nice. You look up to the sky, and it was beautiful. And then, if you have all these cameras around and surveillance around, people are not going to want to do that. They're going to want to stay more inside their home. So, and then without privacy, human beings become performers in a cage. Isn't that the truth? Always on, never truly free. That can be a whole episode in itself. Think about that. I mean, this is TikTok. Everybody wants to be, funny. Funny, Mr. Funny. Right? But in some ways they're clowns. And it's, after a while, it's not funny. It's kind of, ridiculous. And I'm not saying, you can't be funny, but you can see that it's a staged event. And it's a performer in a cage. And I'm not telling people not to be funny because we need humor. That's everything in life. And I love humor. And then surveillance creates what some have called a prison without walls, like what William Cooper was talking about. And in such a world, spiritual growth suffocates. And that is exactly what is happening. And why they do it, many ask this: why do governments and corporations build these systems? Some argue it's for security. Some say it's for profit, which we know that because this is like the biggest thing that people are getting into so that they can sell to the government and to other countries, wherever the big bucks are. That's what Joe M. used to say. I don't even know if he was real, but, I used to watch his his posts. But anyways, so some say it's for security, some say it's for profit, but there's another answer: paranoia. And I do believe a lot of it is the human psyche. They do it for that because they know that the human psyche can be manipulated and shaped to exactly what they want us to do. And the fear of exposure, they fear accountability, responsibility. They do. Most people can't take responsibility. Not even the average person that's not even doing anything. They can't even say they're sorry for what they said to you, you know? Or they want to be the victim so bad that they don't want to take the responsibility. They're always the victim. And so the fear of accountability, the fear of being caught in their own crimes. And that's what I think. That's exactly what I think. They got to watch us to see if we know that they're criminals and they're doing crimes. So surveillance becomes a shield, not to protect us, but to protect them. And this is what I've been saying all along. So these are my thoughts. The cost of surveillance is not only data, it is humanity itself. This is where we're at. And Snowden warned us. Assange revealed the arsenal. He did. I mean, these two, they should be put up for letting us know. The funny thing is that I've often thought is I always kind of knew something wasn't right. Like way before, like in the 90s and things, I was like, something like isn't right. Like things are strange. But until you always like have that underlining feeling. And then when it comes out that it's the truth, you're like, oh my God, I was right. I was having these feelings and I knew something was off. And it just proves that our instinct and our intuition is always right. It knows. That's why it's important to prayer and meditation and thinking and being able to gather your thoughts and define the information so that you're thinking logically and that it's not flawed. Right? So, and the future shows us where it's going. We already know. The next is the digital, the chip and the dip and all that crap. Okay? And people are just, who knows, rolling over and, they'll do it. If they can make it easy not to pull out their wallet and pay for with a credit card or whatever. I mean, that's digital. I get it. But I'm talking about the chip where also just not the chip, but if we're digital all the way and they have the button to control us, this is not a good sign. And if people can't see that, I don't know what, don't you see, like I see, if we do this, I always see the aftermath. Like I go all the way. Like I see it as a problem. Like this is the nail in the coffin. This is how I look at it. So the final truth is this. If we accept a world without privacy, we accept a world without freedom, without creativity, without trust, without spirit. To defend privacy is not to hide. It is to defend the human soul. And that is what I believe. And that's a wrap. And I hope everybody really looks into this for yourself and look at the information. And, you know, you're going to make your choice. And that's just the way it's going to be. But I do see something that, I mean, I'm a little bit, how can I say it? So I saw another new pattern. I just want to say this before I end. I saw a pattern that started in humanity, and we're fragmenting. We're fragmenting more and more. And I'm going to do a episode on it. And I think it's probably one of the most important pattern recognition that I've seen in a lot of years. Like, I've seen it before, but I see it going in this direction. And I want to let everybody know that it's time now to pull back. And we have to define it. Now, I'm going to do a video on it. I'll probably get it out by tomorrow. It's not going to be long. It's going to be like maybe, I don't know, 10 minutes. It's very short. It's precise. I've got numbers to show you and everything. Everything that I researched it from the pattern I saw. And you got to remember this, okay? 3% run the world, and 95% go along with it. Now, what's the 2%? And that's what I figured out. So I'll put that up tomorrow. All right, everybody. Thank you so much. Have a great day.